Hello, English learners, and welcome. I'm your host, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to chat about English learning today.
Okay, so today we're going to try to help you guys out there learn how to start conversations with people you don't know in English.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're probably thinking,
Right.
hey, I already know hi and hello,
Of course.
but we want to go deeper.
Right.
We want to give you some useful phrases and a bit of cultural understanding so you can really feel good about starting those first interactions.
So for this deep dive, we've been looking at different ways to get a conversation going, from those simple greetings to those first few exchanges, and even what we call small talk.
Yeah,
The goal is for you guys listening to walk away with more than just a list of phrases.
right.
We want you to understand how to confidently approach and begin new conversations.
All right, so let's jump right into greetings.
Okay.
Hi and hello. You probably know those.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the base.
Right.
But English speakers often use other informal greetings,
Yeah.
especially in casual situations.
Mm.
So think about it. You hear things like, hey, what's up? How you doing? How's it going? Even yo or sup.
You hear those quite a bit, especially in American English
Oh, yeah, especially American English.
or casual American English.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing to think about is when these different levels of informality are okay.
Right.
So, for instance, hey, and what's up?
Yeah.
Those are common if you're talking to friends or people you know casually.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to use those in more formal situations.
No.
So, like, think about a job interview
Yeah.
or talking to a professor.
Yeah. Right.
In those situations, you want to stick with something more traditional.
Oh, sure.
Now, how are you doing and how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
Those are a little more flexible.
Yeah. But they're still pretty informal.
Yeah.
But if you're going with like yo and sup, save those for close friends,
Yeah.
people you're really relaxed with.
Your buddies.
Yeah.
All right. So, on the other side, we have more formal greetings.
Right.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these seem straightforward, but native speakers don't always use good afternoon or good evening, especially in everyday casual chats.
I think what you see is context really matters. So good morning. You hear that a lot.
Yeah,
Even if it's the afternoon or early evening,
right.
people might just go with hi or hello,
Yeah,
unless there's a specific reason to be more formal,
right.
like a business meeting or addressing someone in a service profession.
Gotcha.
It's worth pointing out, though, that using good afternoon and good evening is always fine.
Yeah,
It won't sound weird. It'll just be a little more formal than maybe the situation calls for.
right. You want to match the vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said your hello.
Right.
Next logical step is figuring out the person's name.
Okay.
Now, this is super important for English language learners.
Uh-huh.
The correct way to ask someone's name is, what is your name? Or the shorter, what's your name?
Right.
Now, it might seem obvious,
Right.
but a lot of learners make the mistake of saying, how are you called?
This is a classic example of what we call language transfer.
Yeah.
You know, the grammar or phrasing from your first language
Right.
sometimes can influence how you speak English incorrectly.
Right.
And in a lot of languages, how are you called
Yeah.
is a totally normal question.
Yeah.
But in English,
Yeah.
it just doesn't sound right.
It sounds so weird
Yeah.
to a native speaker.
Yeah, so you want to stick with what is your name or what's your name.
Yeah.
It'll definitely make you sound more fluent
Yeah.
and comfortable.
Yeah, natural.
Right.
Now, the responses are just as direct.
Uh-huh.
My name is, or my name's,
Right.
simple.
Easy.
For example, my name is host speaker's hypothetical name.
Right.
What's your name?
Right.
Now, what about nicknames?
Okay.
That can throw people off.
So nicknames can be tricky because they often show a certain level of closeness or informality.
Right.
So if you have a nickname you prefer, you can say
Okay.
something like, my name is official name, but I go by nickname. Or, my name is official name, but I prefer to be called nickname.
Right.
So for instance, my name's Jennifer, but I go by Jen.
Right.
So that tells the other person what you'd like them to call you.
Yeah, it's clear.
Right.
So you've exchanged names.
Okay.
What are some polite things you can say right after that introduction?
So this is a great chance to make a good first impression.
Right.
Most common phrases are pleasure to meet you, nice to meet you, and great to meet you.
Yeah.
In most casual situations, you can pretty much use any of those.
Yeah.
They're all good.
And what if you want to sound a little more official?
Okay.
You know, show a lot of respect?
Uh-huh.
I think I've heard, it's an honor to meet you.
Yes, it's an honor to meet you is definitely more formal.
Yeah.
So think about the social dynamics.
Yeah.
You'd probably use that phrase
Yep.
when you're meeting someone you really respect.
Right.
Maybe someone in a very senior position or a well-known figure or someone you really admire.
Like a head of state or a Nobel Prize winner.
Right.
Not your average Tuesday.
No, definitely not your go-to at a party.
And what if someone says, pleasure to meet you, to you?
Okay.
Are there formal ways to respond?
There is the very formal, the pleasure is mine.
Yeah.
Again, that emphasizes formality.
Yeah.
While it's grammatically correct, you don't hear it that often.
Yeah.
Usually, nice to meet you too is perfect.
Right.
Much more common, much more natural.
So we got introductions down.
Okay.
Now, people often want to know where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
What are the usual questions for that?
Well, the most common ones are, where are you from? Or
Yeah.
where are you originally from?
Right.
Adding originally can be good if you think maybe they live somewhere different than where they grew up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can you answer in a way that's more than a one-word answer?
So here's your chance to share a little about yourself.
Okay.
You can definitely just say, I'm from city country,
Right.
or I'm originally from city country.
Right.
But you can also add more detail by saying something like, I was born in, or
Right.
I'm from,
Yeah.
I'm originally from, but I grew up in.
Right.
And that just gives the person a little more of a picture.
A little more background.
Yeah.
So what if you've moved somewhere and been living there for a while?
Okay.
How do you express that?
That's a perfect time to use the present perfect continuous tense.
Okay.
So you could say, I have been living here for duration. For
Yeah.
example, I have been living here for 5 years,
Right.
or I have been living here since year.
Okay.
Like, I have been living here since 2018.
So just to clarify,
Yeah,
for is for a period of time,
exactly.
since is for a point in time.
Right, a specific point.
Okay.
And using that tense
Yeah.
shows the other person that you started living there in the past and you still live there now.
Well, that's a good way to use that
Yeah,
in a real situation.
yeah.
Now, another question that can help you understand someone
Okay.
is why are they in a certain place or situation?
Right.
So how do you ask that?
A really versatile question is, what brings you here?
Okay.
You could ask this if you meet someone in a new city.
Yeah.
At a conference, at a party,
At a meeting.
even in a class.
Yeah.
It's just a general way to ask
Yeah.
about their reason for being there.
So what kinds of answers would you get to a question like that?
Well, it really depends on the situation.
Right.
Someone might say, I'm here because I know the host, or because I'm studying at the university, because I work in this city, or even I'm just visiting as a tourist.
Yeah.
It's really an open-ended question
Right.
that just encourages the person to share a little about themselves and their situation.
All right. So we've covered the initial steps.
Okay.
Now let's move on to something that a lot of people find tricky.
All right.
Small talk.
Okay.
So what is small talk?
Small talk is really just light, informal conversation about everyday things.
Yeah.
Think of it as a social lubricant.
Okay.
It helps to create a relaxed atmosphere,
Yeah.
build a bit of connection, and lets you get to know someone
Uh-huh.
on a surface level
Right.
before moving into more in-depth conversation.
Right.
If that feels appropriate.
Okay. So what are some classic go-to small talk topics?
Right.
Weather always seems to come up.
Yeah, absolutely. The weather's always a favorite,
Yeah.
and for good reason. I
Yeah.
mean, it's something that almost everyone has an opinion on.
Right.
You know, it's relatable.
Right.
You might say something like, it's a lovely day today, isn't it?
Right.
Or if the weather's not so great, it's a miserable day today, isn't it?
Right.
Are those little questions at the end like, isn't it? Those are called tag questions.
Okay.
They're super common in English.
Yeah.
They're just a way to invite agreement
Yeah.
and keep the conversation going.
Right.
You could also say something more general like, we've had such great weather lately,
Right.
or we've not had very good weather lately.
Right. Like commenting on the overall trend.
Exactly.
So weather chat, very reliable.
Yeah.
But what if you want to go beyond the sunshine and rain?
Okay.
How do you start asking about someone's life and what they're interested in?
All right. So here's where you can build a more personal connection.
Okay.
A good starting point is usually work.
Right.
So you could ask, what do you do for work? Or what do you do for a living?
Right.
But just keep in mind
Yeah.
that in some cultures, asking about someone's job too early in the conversation
Yeah.
can be a little direct.
Yeah.
So you want to pay attention to the tone and flow of the conversation.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
About cultural differences.
right.
Are there ways you should definitely not ask about work?
Definitely avoid saying things like, what's your job?
Yeah.
It can sound a little abrupt.
Yeah, a little rude.
Yeah.
And needless to say, you shouldn't ask, How much money do you make?
No, never ask that.
That's a huge
Oh,
no.
way too personal.
So if someone asks you what you do, what are good ways to answer?
Well, you could say, I work as your occupation. Or, I have been working as your occupation for amount of time.
Right.
And if you're not working, you could say, currently I'm looking for a job. I'm a student at institution, or I'm retired.
Okay.
Those are all polite and informative
Yeah.
ways to answer.
Now, beyond work, how do you ask about hobbies, passions, what people like to do?
There are a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah.
You can go from general to specific.
Okay.
You can start with a broad question like, what do you do in your free time?
Mm-hmm.
Or what are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Those are good starting points.
Yeah.
But you could also try something like, what are you passionate about?
Right.
What are you interested in at the moment? Or how do you like to spend your free time?
Yeah, those are a little more...
Those are a bit more detailed,
Yeah.
and they can lead to more interesting conversations.
I like this. They sound more elegant.
Yeah, they do.
So if someone asks you those questions,
Okay.
what are some ways to reply?
Well, you could start with, I'm passionate about your interest, or I really enjoy your hobby, or I'm interested in topic.
Okay.
And a little grammar tip.
Okay.
When you talk about what you're interested in,
Uh-huh.
remember to use the preposition in.
Right.
So I'm interested in photography.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm interested in learning new languages.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but it makes a big difference.
Right. It makes you sound natural.
Exactly.
Now, let's say you're a guest somewhere.
Okay.
What are some polite ways to say thank you?
Showing gratitude is always a good way to build relationships.
Yeah.
A really natural phrase when you're a guest is, thank you so much for having me. It's warm, it's genuine, it
Yeah.
shows your appreciation.
Are there other ways to say thank you in that situation?
Yeah, you could say, thank you for the invitation, or thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
Those are totally polite.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me feels more personal,
Yeah.
like you're really grateful for their hospitality.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
But what's the one thing that can really help you
Uh-huh.
when you're meeting new people
Right.
and trying to start a conversation?
That key element is confidence,
Right.
especially in cultures like American and British culture.
Yeah.
The way you present yourself and
Right.
your level of confidence really influences how others see you, how easily you can connect with them.
Yeah.
So it's important to smile, have
Right.
open body language,
Right.
don't cross your arms,
Right.
and try to be friendly and approachable.
So even if you're nervous or unsure about your English,
Yeah,
if you try to look confident, it'll make a difference.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's that saying, fake it till you make it.
Right.
So even if you don't feel super confident,
Yeah.
if you try to be sociable,
Right.
make eye contact, speak clearly,
Yeah.
people will respond better.
Yeah.
And often that positive reaction can
Yeah.
actually make you more confident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a win-win.
So to recap, we talked about different greetings
Uh-huh.
beyond
Oh.
just hi.
Right.
We talked about the correct way to ask for and give names,
Right.
even how to talk about nicknames.
Yeah.
We looked at polite phrases after introductions,
Mhm.
how to ask about someone's background and why they're somewhere. And of course, we went into the small talk
Yeah.
from weather to interests.
Right.
And we talked about how important it is to show gratitude
Yeah.
and project confidence.
Exactly.
So these aren't just random phrases.
No.
They all work together to help you start and keep conversations going.
Exactly.
By understanding the nuances of how and when to use them,
Right.
you'll be much better at navigating new social situations
For sure.
and making connections.
Yeah.
So to all you listeners out there,
Yeah.
as you think about these different aspects of starting conversations,
Uh-huh.
we want you to consider this.
Okay.
In what ways might using these phrases and understanding these cultural nuances
Right.
open up new doors for you?
Yeah.
New connections, new cultural exchanges.
For sure.
It's about more than just speaking the words.
Yeah.
It's about really connecting with the people around you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was fun.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.